what an important impact Gann is having on my personal growth. But first, I want to tell you about my grandparents. Given the Jewish backgrounds my parents came from, you never would have guessed they'd get married. One set of my grandparents keeps a Glock kosher home, and the other keeps bacon in the fridge. From one set of grandparents, I learned how practicing Jewish rituals and observing Jewish tradition can connect me to my heritage. And from the other set of grandparents, I learned how interpreting Judaism in new ways can make religion uniquely meaningful to me. There are a million reasons why I love my grandparents and why my relationships with them are important to me, and obviously I can't name all of them right now. But one way they are unique from every other family relationship I have is that they are my connection to my family history. And while accommodating everyone can sometimes present us challenges, I feel lucky to have been exposed to a variety of Jewish experiences throughout my life. I'm glad that I grew up experiencing two very different ways of practicing Judaism because it has given me the opportunity to reflect constantly about my own Jewish identity. I want to practice Judaism in a way that honors both of my grandparents' choices and the values and traditions that they passed down to me. But when those values don't match up perfectly, I find myself asking how I fit myself somewhere in between, and how I can find my own Jewish identity somewhere in the combination of theirs. I don't have perfect answers to either of those questions yet. I'm guessing I'm still going to be figuring them out for years. But going to Gann has helped me start to make sense of what Judaism means to me and what kinds of choices I want to make in my life. The classes I've taken these past 2 years have helped me think about Judaism in new ways that feel really relevant to my life. For example, this year I took a class called Bioethics and the Jewish Tradition. We read Jewish texts from 2,000 years ago to the present and explored issues like abortion and organ donation. I was amazed to see how modern Jewish opinions on these subjects were influenced and informed by thousands of years of ideas that kept building with each other. I always knew that Judaism had something to say about the variety of moral questions we face, but I never really realized how connected our modern understandings are to these ideas that our ancestors spent thousands of years debating and developing. The class really opened my eyes and helped me see a strong connection between what I read in the Torah and the ideas that Jews are talking about today. I know that for many reasons, it would be simpler for my parents to send me to my local public school rather than letting me attend Gann. Gann is about 45 minutes away from our house, and it's a lot more expensive. But I really appreciate that my family has given me the opportunity to go to the school. I'm learning a lot in all my classes, and I have a school community that is great and supportive. But most of all, I'm so glad that I go to Gann because I know that the learning I'm doing about Judaism's past is helping me figure out what I want for my own future.
One of the unique things about a pluralistic high school is that people come here for all sorts of different reasons. Every generation of families come here for all sorts of different reasons. Kids, parents, grandparents don't always know what to expect. Contrary to maybe a generation or two ago when you chose a Jewish high school, it was for a specific set of reasons and you knew exactly what you were getting. The remarkable thing about this school is its extraordinary diversity, which starts with the reasons why people choose to be here, and continues throughout a 4-year and sometimes even more year journey for families who rarely leave, I think, the same way that they came in. So thank you for modeling that for us today. I wanted to share where I was last week, actually. It's hard to believe that it was only a week ago, but a week ago, I was actually with Sophie's dad and 24 other lay leaders from the Boston Jewish community in Poland and Israel on a mission through the Combined Jewish Philanthropies. There were so many poignant moments on that trip in both Poland and Israel that helped me understand why it is that I get up every day and do what I do, and why Gann is such an important part of the Jewish community. We got to Poland. The first thing we did, for those of you that have been to Warsaw, the first thing we did is we went to the cemetery in Warsaw, because paradoxically, when you want to learn about the life of a place, where do you go? Oftentimes, the cemetery, in order to see, just even from who was buried in the famous Warsaw Cemetery, the extraordinary people that made pre-war Poland the center of Jewish civilization, really. And so we got to see the extraordinary life that was in Poland before the Holocaust, and how it reflected a diversity of expressions of Jewish culture and civilization like we can only imagine here. And then, of course, we went to the concentration camps and felt the horror, the tragic history of our people. It was only sharpened by having seen the amazing life that was before Poland. But then, we actually sat with a bunch of young, almost our students' age, activists in Warsaw and Krakow, and listened to them tell us, not much different from what Sophie just said, which is how they are trying to uncover their past and renew a future for themselves and the Jewish community in Warsaw, in Krakow, in the world, and their extraordinary ability to face their past but to look forward to the future with a sense of responsibility for its renewal was actually surprising to many of us and inspiring. And then we went to Israel, and there's nothing like going to Israel from Poland, honestly. And of course, we're at the wall, and we're walking the sacred history of Yerushalayim, of Jerusalem, feeling a connection to our 1,000-year history and feeling inspired by what's taken place there. And then, a couple days later, we're meeting with young entrepreneurs and learning about Startup Nation, and how Israel has more startups per capita than any other country in the world, and how very much Israel is defined not by being stuck in the past, but by looking forward toward the future and making a significant contribution to the world. And you get this sense that you're sitting right in between the past and the future, deeply anchored in a sense of where we come from, on the foundation of our values, on the shoulders of the giants who've come before us, and yet not looking backwards, but looking forwards with a sense of responsibility, opportunity, excitement, inspiration, energy about the future that we can and must build together. That was one of the themes of our trip. I was with Sophie's mom on this trip last time, by the way, so it's a family experience for us. And one of the highlights actually was actually Shabbat lunch with Sophie's other grandparents who aren't here today, probably because they're still in Israel, who hosted a bunch of us for Shabbat lunch. And your grandmother told us her story of being an activist in the Soviet Jewry movement. Told us a little bit about her Jewish journey. And then she looked at this room of lay leaders from the Boston Jewish community who are from all across the Jewish spectrum. And she said, that was my activism, keeping Judaism alive and engaging and inspiring for your generation and the next generation, so that they are not only literate and knowledgeable, but ethically responsible and passionately engaged. That is your activism. That is your activism. She charged us with this. And I just couldn't help but think about the sense that we are at a moment right now, and your grandchildren are living it right now. They are living right on the brink between a past that many of you lived or were much closer to than your grandchildren are. I think you know that. And a future that we need the next generation to build. And one of the biggest challenges of high school education today, in a Jewish school, but honestly anywhere, is the fact that we have a generation of high school students, many of whom, honestly, are memoryless. They don't know where they come from. They don't feel rooted and connected to their history, or to their parents' stories, or to their grandparents' stories. Some have called this generation orphans in history. And some of that is about you all being here and being part of their lives and telling your stories so that they know where they come from. But some of it is about high school and how we educate our kids to not only get all the best grades in the world and get into all the best colleges in the country, and to gain all the skills that they need to be successful in the workplace and to be competitive in a global marketplace. Yes, 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 yes. And to know that there's something larger going on here, that they are part of something larger than themselves, that there is a purpose here, a purpose that connects to their ethical characters and their identities as Jews and as human beings, and that this 4-year journey is about something larger than grades and test scores and even college.